Hi, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the debate last night. I sure did. Fascinating. And now, well, I already knew who I was going to vote for, but now I'm convinced about who I'm going to vote for. But first, today, we're going to hear what happened on day one of the testimony in the case of Laurie Shaver. She's on trial for murder. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Rebecca. This is Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I do some lives, where I craft. Tonight will be Craft With Me Wednesday. That will be live at 6 p.m. Central. Tonight, I'm going to get out a blanket that I've been crocheting. I started the beginning of the year. My goal was to finish this by the end of the year. That's not going to happen, but that's okay. We're going to work on it tonight. It's a graphgan, which means that there's a graph that I'm following. It's a floral design, so it'll be interesting. Yes. Anyway, what happened on day one? Testimony. Following the opening statements yesterday, we had several witnesses that appeared in this Laurie Shaver trial. Now, she's on trial for murdering her husband. Yes. No, well, not the current husband, a former husband who sort of vanished on November 7th of 2015. Nobody ever heard from him again. And that's what all of these first few witnesses were all about. First, we heard from a woman named Rita Merritt. She's the one that went with her husband. I said it was a tractor pull because that's what I thought he said in the opening, but she described it more about more like a flea market, sort of a trunk show of these trucks and cars and steam engines. I don't know. She said it was in the morning. As the morning progressed, it got a little hotter. And she said that they met up. They came in separate vehicles. They met up with Laurie and her husband, Michael, and their kids. And it seemed like Laurie and Michael were not in the best of moods, and they kind of left early. Now, of course, on cross-examination, the attorney pointed out, well, it got really hot. Yes, it did. And maybe they were sick. I don't know. you know. Anyway, so the second witness, John Borglum, was the supervisor of Michael Shaver. He worked at a Disney attraction at Epcot Center. He was a mechanic on the ride Planet Earth, that big globe in the middle of Epcot. So apparently what happens at Disney is I don't know what kind of background you have to have, but you can get into an apprentice program that's 4 years long, and it qualifies they give you the tools, and you can add, they're yours to keep in this program, and you can add to them, and you take that with you to whatever attraction that you get hired to work at. And so he had his tools, and he had been there at Disney for 6 years. Now, he had known John. They met when they were in the mechanic program, but John was his supervisor, and he said that Mike had a great work ethic. He worked the overnight shift. So I'm assuming fixing the ride, maintaining the ride. He said very good work ethic, respected by his coworkers. It was, in fact, getting ready to give him a promotion. And then he was scheduled to work November 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, 14th. But he no-called and no-showed all 4 of those days. Now, after the first no-call, no-show, John was a little concerned, so he texts him. Doesn't get a response back. And then the next day, nothing. So he starts asking coworkers, hey, what's going on with John? What's going on with Mike? Nobody knows. Nobody knew what was going on with him. Now, Disney has a policy that after 3 days of a no call, no show, you are automatically terminated. And he was very concerned. He didn't want Mike to lose his job. So he texted him again. He finally gets a response from who he thinks is Michael Shaver, saying he's not coming back and to go ahead and fire him. So he's like, well, what do I do with your tools? You got a toolbox here. And he's like, just give it to Rita Merritt's husband. He also worked there. I don't know what his first name is. He hasn't testified yet. In any case, they gave the tools to him to take home. Not good, huh? So then Brendan Burns took the stand. He, by profession, is an airline pilot, but prior to becoming a pilot, had been an airline mechanic and worked with Michael on a lot of projects. So I don't know if that's Michael's background, being an airline mechanic. Not sure, but they became good friends. And at one point in 2014, Michael actually moved into the hangar where they used to do these projects because he had to leave his house. And then he was asked if he was dating his boss was asked this too. Was he dating a coworker there named Kendall at Disney? And he's like, the boss says, I never heard of it. But this guy, Brendan said, yeah, he was, while he was living in the hangar, not living with his wife, Laurie, he was dating a woman named Kendall, and that she worked at Disney as well, but not on the same direction. So his last contact with Michael was in early 2015. So then we had Robert Mercado on the stand. Now, this is a guy that Laurie told someone, when they came to do a check, he left, and Robert came and picked him up and drove him to Georgia, Robert Mercado. Well, Robert took the stand. He's like, I never drove him anywhere. No, I did not drive him to Georgia. He is also a mechanic at Disney and met Michael in the Apprentice program. He had plans with Michael. They were going to have Thanksgiving together, and Michael stopped contacting him. And when he texted him, of course, and he finally responds saying he wants, just leave me alone. I want to be left alone. Okay. He did say that he had witnessed violence between Laurie and Michael, Laurie Shaver, the defendant, and her husband. So apparently he drove him home from court one day in 2014. So I'm surmising that there was a domestic violence case that went to court. And I have hair in my mouth. Sorry. Okay. So he drove him home from court to pick up his clothing because he wasn't allowed to stay at the house there. So he goes, he picks up his clothing. They come back the next day. He wants to get some more things. And while this Robert Mercado is at the home, he hears the two of them arguing. So he goes into the room where they're arguing, hey, what's up, guys? Because, he just needs to get Robert out of there so he doesn't get in trouble. He just needs to get Michael out of there and, get him out of the home. My thought is that he probably had a restraining order to leave. So that's why he just wanted to get his stuff and get out of there. Well, when Robert walks in the room to see what's going on with these two, he said Laurie had a handgun. She's waving a handgun around, saying she's going to hurt herself. So he said he stepped between them. Now, the defense attorney on cross-examination tried to make it seem like Michael was being the aggressor, and he says, no, they were both being aggressive towards each other. I stepped between the two of them and just separated them and took Michael, and we took our stuff and left. But he said they were both being very aggressive. Okay. But no police were called. Didn't call any police. Then the next witness was a man named Corey Lutzo. He also worked with Michael Shaver at Disney on the Planet Earth ride. He also went to this apprentice program. He had the same tool box with tools that was given to him by Disney. And he said the snap Snap-on truck would come occasionally and give them deep discounts to buy other tools, and they would add those to their toolbox. He said his toolbox and Michael's toolbox were essentially identical because they bought a lot of the same things, and they would borrow each other's stuff. And he said it was valued probably $4,000 this toolbox. And he said he communicated him through Facebook Messenger on the 12th, the day after he didn't show up for work. And did not get a response, but he says, I got a read receipt. And he tells the jury what it is before the defense attorney has a chance to object, with him instructing the jury about what a read receipt is. And we know I'm very familiar with it. You guys are too. Come on. You send a message to somebody on Facebook, and if they've read your message, you see their little icon below the message, so you know they've read it. There's a way you can change that, and I don't know what it is, but anyway, they know you've read it. And so he knew someone had read this message. He assumed it was Michael, but he didn't respond. So then the next witness was Brian Shaver, Michael Shaver's brother. Now the next few witnesses are all family members, and collectively, it did not seem like there was a lot of contact. Brian explained that his parents split up. Some of the kids went with her. Some of the kids went with dad. I don't know which one's which. I'm assuming Michael was living with his mom, because dad took the stand and said that he had Michael for summers and holidays. So I don't know that this was a very close-knit family, but they kept in contact with each other. They'd call, they'd text, but they do Facebook Messenger. Just, we all do that now. We don't pick up the phone a whole lot anymore, unfortunately. So Brian had tried to reach out to his brother Michael when his mother got really sick in 2015 and never got a response. He knew how close Michael was to his mom, because he went to live with mom. Never got a response to telling him. He was going to tell him, "Hey, your mom's sick." Never got a response. Yeah. Anyway, next person on the stand was the father, Doug Shaver, the father, and he had not spoken to his son since 2014. But he got a call when they went to excavate the body. So he and his daughter, Michael's sister, drove down from Georgia for that excavation. The daughter's name was Christine Quirk, and she was his older sister. She said he hadn't been responding to Facebook messages, text messages regarding their mother. He didn't show up at her wedding. And she had never been invited to visit with him. So she did say, yeah, I was with dad when they found his body. And then the next person on the stand was Desiree Buckles. She got kind of emotional. Michael Shaver was her uncle. And she said that in 2016, he had stopped messaging her. And then he had stopped messaging her. And then in 2016, she gets a message from him saying, I don't know who you are. Leave me alone. And when she said this to the jury, she started crying. That's terrible. Like, she's thinking this is coming from her uncle. I don't know who you are. Leave me alone. So the last time she had seen him in person was 2001. Then the next person on the stand was Desiree's mom, Stacy Turner, who's Mike's other sister. So 2 boys, 2 girls that we know of in this family. She said Mike and Laurie, the defendant, met when they were in 7th grade. Well, I don't know if that's when they met. That's when they started dating. 7th grade. Now, a friend that testifies next, he said it was 8th grade, but that's awfully young to declare your intentions. Anyway, she had also reached out to Mike when their mother was ill and did not get a response from him. So she reached out to Laurie, and Laurie said, "Oh yeah, I'll let him know. I'll tell him." Never heard from Michael. Then we had the next person on the stand was Scott Amatuccio, who said he had been best friends with Michael since 2nd grade. And he knew Laurie. He said when they first started dating in 8th grade, he said, I was there when he asked her out. It was in my bedroom, and he had me play Boys to Men in the background while he asked her out. How funny is that? That's really cute. Anyway, he stopped receiving messages and texts from Michael and was very concerned. But then he said he received some disturbing information. Now, he couldn't say what it was because that's hearsay and that's not allowed in the court. But I figured it out from the next witness that what he learned was that there was a new concrete slab that had been poured in the backyard. And after this, nobody hears from Michael again. So he calls Michael's family, lets them know there's news that he heard, and he calls the police and says, "Can you go do a wellness check?" So the police that go out, Corey Anderson, he was a corporal on the road patrol for Lake County Sheriff's Department. And he said he goes out, and this is when Laurie answers the door, says, I don't know where he is, and he left, blah, blah, blah. So he said, "Can I look around your yard?" He goes out, he sees the new concrete slab. He said it was like 8 foot by 3 foot, like enough to be over a dead body. And then the center of it had like an 8-inch depression in it. And so he was like, that tells me that a body was probably underneath there, or could be. So he turns in that information, and they get the warrant, and the whole process starts. Yeah. Anyway, Jessica Holcomb was the next person to appear by videotape. They videotaped her deposition to preserve her testimony. I don't know why. Usually this is done if a witness is expected to not be in town during a trial. Like, if the witness is going to go out of town, more than 100 miles away, it has to be more than 100 miles away, and they're not, maybe they had a pre-planned vacation, you can set it up so you can take and record their testimony ahead of time. And that's what they did. So she was a crime scene investigator that responded out to the home that day. She described it as a very large piece of property with pilots on it and a manufactured home. So it wasn't a brick and mortar home. It was a trailer, if you will. She described the crime scene to the jury. They showed photos to the jury, not to everybody else. We haven't gotten to see one single photo. I wanted to see the depression in this concrete because I'm curious about that. Anyway, I've got a depression out in my yard, but we know it's a tree trunk. It's not a body. Anyway. So she talked to the jury about how they brought in the ground penetrating radar, which was conclusive for some kind of anomaly beneath that concrete slab. They didn't know what. So then they brought in some heavy machinery, which destroyed the fire pit. Inside this fire pit, they find some laminate flooring that they retain, and they swab and send for DNA. And because there was some presumptive positive blood on this flooring. They tested to see if stains and things on the flooring might be blood, and it comes back positive, which means it might not. You never know. So that was sent to FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, because they've got the big lab. They know how to do this. All these little counties, they're not set up to do this kind of investigative work. So she said they found Once the fire pit was destroyed, she then described the excavation process to the jury. They had buckets, and they would take a bucket, in layers. They would take the bucket over to um, a sifting station, and where they were sifting everything. They found the humerus bone around 5 p.m. that day. This is the day that Corey Anderson goes out, does the wellness check. And that was located about 20 inches down. Then that was transported to the medical examiner's office, together with the rest of the stuff they found. Then she talks about how they found that green strap that I described in the show yesterday, something that was wrapped around, and it's one of those that kind of folds down. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Like you would use it on a vehicle to hold things down in the back of your truck, that kind of thing. Not a bungee cord, but a strap. And they found some elastic, and she said this elastic looked to her like it might have come from a fitted sheet. And the tarp, which had some damage to it, some small rips. They actually took this tarp back to the police garage, so to speak. They put a brand new tarp out, and then they unfolded this tarp that they found and tested some of this tarp for blood, and it was presumptive positive for blood, and that was sent to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement lab for analysis, and we'll hear the results of that later. They also sent some hair fibers that were found in the tarp. I wonder what those showed. I'm assuming probably nothing, or we would have heard about it in openings. But in any case, they also found the rest of his remains, she said, which were about 36 inches down beneath the slab, so 3 feet. That's quite a large hole. 36 inches down. Then they found boxer shorts and socks, and that's about it. So, with each witness, the defense attorney is asking on his cross-examination, but you weren't there, right? You don't know. You didn't see anybody murder Michael, right? You didn't see Laurie murder Michael. No, of course they didn't. Nobody saw the murder. None of these witnesses so far. You're not an IT tech, are you? No. But I'm sure there's a reason he's asking every single witness these questions, because he's going to say to the jury at the end, no one can has any knowledge of how this man was murdered. No one was there. No one saw it. No one witnessed it. How do you know it was Laurie? Anyway, I'm still waiting to see or hear how they know it was Laurie. I'm sure there's some really good evidence to come, including the daughter. So I did find out she was 7 years old at the time, and she does believe she confessed to the shooting. But I'm telling you, during the defense's opening, he claims Jeremy Townsend, a guy that she was dating at the time, took the gun from her and shot Michael Turner, different defendant, Michael Shaver in the head. Now, he was shot in the back of the head. So was he turned around? How did you shoot him in the back of the head? How did the little girl shoot him in the back of the head? Allegedly, he had his foot on the defendant's head on the floor. How did he get shot in the back of the head? These are the questions I'm asking myself as, 13th juror. So, all right, that's the show for today, guys. Have a great Wednesday. I hope to see you tonight at 6 p.m. Central for Craft With Me Wednesday. Like I said before, I'm going to get out a crochet project that I should be way more ahead on than I am, but it's okay. It'll get done eventually. So we're going to work on that tonight. Have a great afternoon, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Take care. Bye.